You are watching T Radio V, radio in TV.
Surviving an assault is never easy, and the questions which flow only add to the trauma. Most victims are not ready to talk right away. With I've Been Violated app, survivors can confidentially record their story simply by talking into their phone. The record they create is doubly encrypted and stored securely offline, accessible only through the proper authorities. The I've Been Violated app helps prove survivors' credibility when they are ready to seek the help they need.
You are watching T Radio V, radio in TV.
We're back with Ron and Greg.
Welcome back to our final segment, and I'd like to continue with Michael as we have begun here. And Michael, would you also give us some insight as to, now we know over the years all of the problems that we've had with sexual assault and domestic assault, and how they have been just a never-ending problem within our society. And how do you think this technology is going to make a difference?
Well, the technology can't address the primary problem, which is people assaulting one another. But what it can address is what happens afterwards. 85% of assault victims are not ready to talk to the appropriate authorities in any kind of a timely manner. And certainly we saw that most recently with the length of time it's taken for Bill Cosby's victims, for example, to come out and step forward. So if you look at the time gap, what happens is the longer that a victim waits to speak, the more that the police, doing their job, have to question the victim about their story and their credibility. What the I've Been Violated app does is it allows the victim the opportunity, again, to take control. She or he can, whenever they get to a place that they feel is safe, record a video of their story. What happened, who did it to them, anything that they want to show the camera, and then that video is locked up, offline, double encrypted and secured, until whatever point in time it is that the victim is ready to come forward. And then the police, not the victim, but the authorities can retrieve the video. So what this means is that a victim that is assaulted does not have to subject themselves as much to what is a second trauma, and the second trauma is their story and credibility being questioned, because if they use the I've Been Violated app, they have a contemporaneous record. It's available to the authorities. It can be trusted because it's got a guarded chain of evidence, and that relieves most of the credibility questions, which can so traumatize someone that's already been through a horrible trauma the first time.
So take us through the whole sexual assault scenario, if there's anything more than what you've just described.
Well, sure. Let's assume that you are the unfortunate victim of an attack. The first and most important thing is to get yourself to someplace that's safe. Now, if you are ready to talk to authorities, do so. There are plenty of health officials that are able to help you. The hospital's able to help you. The police are able to help you. But the sad truth is the legal system is ugly. And what it does to the victim is not pleasant. And as a result, the vast majority of victims are not ready, especially immediately after a trauma, to subject themselves to that second trauma. So they go to a place that's safe and they retreat. If they have the app, when they go to that place that's safe and retreat, they still can privately talk to their phone. They can make an evidentiary record of what happens. And then they can use that evidentiary record later, be it a month later, 6 months later, a year later, and doing so, protect themselves from what the authorities will have to do, which is question them about why they waited, why it's taken X amount of time to come forward and tell their story. And they can say, but I made a video. Here's how you get it. It was made a couple of hours afterwards.
So how does the domestic assault scenario differ?
Well, domestic assault is actually a worse version, because what happens is most of the victims of domestic assault, it's someone they know, they're not ready to talk, and it's going to keep happening repeatedly. And only when they finally do go to the authorities can they do something to break the cycle of it happening and happening and happening. If they use the I've Been Violated app, in effect, they're making a portfolio of records of what happens. And instead of when they go to the police merely talking about the incident that just happened, again, the authorities can retrieve whatever's in this portfolio. Mm-hmm. It might be one video, it might be 5 videos, it could be 100 videos. And when they've got that evidence, that helps them deal with the perpetrator, and it helps them get the victim on the road to recovery.
So, Michael, there are other apps that have tried to deal with these problems. How is the I've Been Violated app different, and what does that mean for the potential victims that are able to use this?
Almost all of the other apps that are out there instantly summon the authorities. So if you're in the 50, apps are great. And quite frankly, if you're in that 15%, please, if you need to use one of them, use them. Get to the authorities. Get help. But if you're in the 85%, those apps don't help you. The minute you activate them, you're notifying the authorities. You're doing the very thing you didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. So our app is the only thing that lets you separate those two things. You can make an evidentiary record, keep it under your control, and only have it available when you are ready to talk to the authorities. And that's a major difference.
Yeah. So you've described how folks can help with the bullying issue. How can they help with this one?
It's much the same. Getting word out there that the app is available and it's available for free. Mm-hmm. What we want to do for students and college students is partner with schools so that we can put local resources into the app. If you are at, for example, UCLA, it would be great if when you use the app, it brought up UCLA resources. Mm-hmm. If you are in a California county, it would be great if we could partner with the local health authorities in that county so that when you pull it up, you are directed to the local resources. But either way, the app is free. It's available, again, on the App Store and on the Google Play Store. If you look for I've Been Violated, it's there. If you type I've Been Violated into a Google or a Yahoo search, you'll find it. It is free. It is intended for victims, and get it on your phone, and then God forbid you should hopefully never have to use it.
Well,
but if you do, it's there.
Yes. As a parent of daughters, I would think that this is something that would be absolutely essential. That and as a university student, or as I can think of a variety of different arenas in which this is absolutely a critical thing to be able to have.
Well, the more we can get the word out that apps like this are available, that there's something that actually directly empowers victims so that they're not dependent on third parties and they're not dependent on bystanders, and that they can at least have some measure of control of what happens to the mess that just happened to them, the more we can be helping them. And the goal is to take somebody that considers themselves a victim and turn them into someone who's willing to label themselves as a survivor. And to get to that, they need to be able to talk about what happens, and they need to be able to feel that they've got some measure of control over their situation. What we want is to empower victims so that it's horrible whatever happened to them. Right. For the survivors of tomorrow.
Yes, that's great, Michael. Well, we'd like to thank you, Michael. Well, that was pretty powerful stuff.
Yes, it was.
That's important, great stuff.